From the pixelated joys of old-school SimCity to Anno 1800, we just can't stop playing city building games. Here's why. City building sims are brilliant. You start off with a big empty patch of ground and somehow hew an actual metropolis into existence. It's like having a pet. You feed it with energy and water, take it for walks, and post loads of pictures of it on its own private Instagram. Okay, maybe it's nothing like having a pet, but there are plenty of psychological reasons that we love lining up roads, building hospitals, and keeping everything running smoothly. So, from the attraction of being a god to in-game tweets making us feel all warm and fuzzy, here's why we can't stop playing city builders. Okay, so first things first, our obsession with city building isn't anything new. Whether you started your godlike structural career in Rome with the aqueducts of Caesar, building pyramids in Pharaoh, or with Will Wright's SimCity in one of its many forms, the joys of watching a settlement of your own creation grow are endless. I'll get onto the psychology of it all in a minute, but this is a system constructed, pun totally intended, to keep you clicking until 4 AM. It's also a system truly ingrained in our brains. We know that Sims don't like it when you put a sewage plant next to their lovely residential zones. Well, why would they? And we also know that it's essential to make everything in an orderly grid, even if it means sacrificing half a city 3 years in because one street is slightly off. You know it's not just me. Unsurprisingly, city building sims have advanced over the years too. Inhabitants' needs have become more complex, our views under and over ground have analytics worthy of Google, and the potential of creative forces such as cities' skylines is almost terrifyingly endless. And yet there might be a few more bells and whistles, and things might look a little different from back in 1989 when you couldn't build a power plant and your Sims burnt down your police station in retaliation, but the appeal here is exactly the same. It's all about control. You could say that the appeal of all video games is control, a way that we can stay on top of a set of manageable variables and succeed, well, or indeed fail, dependent on nothing but our own skills. This is in direct contrast to real life, where we quite often can't control much. But there's a very special type of control when we settle down to something like Anno 1800 or Surviving Mars. We are a god, and we really, really like it. When we load up a city building game, we have ultimate autonomy. Where to build roads, where residential zones should go, whether or not to add that giant haunted house for the kids to have fun in and the neighbours to complain about. I've talked about it before in a previous video about why we're so obsessed with playing realistic simulation games, but this autonomy is actually one of 3 psychological factors involved in the self-determination theory that dictates exactly how much fun we're having when we play games. The other 2 elements involved are competence and relatedness. Competence, as you might expect, is how we get better at games over time, which in city builders happens directly in front of us. We see immediate results of our successes, or, failures as we run out of wood again to build more houses, but yeah, let's not focus on that. And finally, relatedness. This isn't really the best word, but basically means that when we play, we feel like we have an effect on other people, real or imaginary. We're better than a town or city to do this. Cities Skyline's tweet system is a particularly good example of a digital pat on the back. You're trending, people are recognising what you're building and they like it so much that there are actual hashtags. Ooh, and just look at all those happy faces smiling back at you when you build more health services or a dog park. 21st century relatedness. If you want more information on self-determination theory, check out the link in the description below for the article The Motivational Pull of Video Games. I mentioned it earlier, but keeping you up until 3 or 4 AM is a very real worry when it comes to simulation games. You watch your cities grow in front of your eyes as you succeed, and it never feels like you've been sitting for hours. It's only when you look at the clock do you realise that you have to get up in 3 hours and you've been playing Islanders for 6. The psychological explanation for this is a concept called flow. In a paper called The Psychology of Control in Video Games by Paul Toprak from the University of Texas, flow is described as an emotional state that occurs when you're fully engaged and immersed in an activity. For flow to be fully achieved, games need to be doing a number of things for us. The first of these is the merging of action and awareness and concentration and focus on what's called a limited field of stimuli. This makes complete sense when it comes to city building games. Not only does our mouse become one with us as we play, but all of our concentration is on our glorious metropolis to be. Everything we do is for its benefit. Deciding on the number of warehouses or whether you'll increase or decrease taxes are huge decisions for us, but actually take place in a very small, concentrated world. Next up on the flow tick list is the loss of self-consciousness and the transformation of time. While we're concentrating on creating our ultimate constructions in city building games, everything else leaves our minds. What you're having for lunch tomorrow is of no concern when you've got a freezing city to defend in Frostpunk or a sea of zombies to think about in They Are Billions. Flow then comes naturally to these type of games, and we shouldn't be afraid of losing a few hours to our ultimate grand designs. So, we know that we officially lose time to city building games, but there's something else that keeps us coming back for more construction-based fun. We get to be artistic, or at least if not artistic, organised in a way that our lives don't always tend to be. In the same way that we might play games like Viscera Cleanup Detail or House Flipper while surrounded by a messy desk, city builders give us a sense of order when there doesn't always feel like there can be one. Like looking at sand slicing videos on YouTube, everything in your city can be perfectly dissected by power lines, water, and even sewage pipes. Who knew that wastewater could be so gosh darn peaceful? It's these design and almost relaxation elements of city sims that mean they actually work as good stress relief games as well as challenging sims. I've even added City Skylines to my list of the most relaxing games. Turn off disasters and add some mods, and suddenly you have even more control of a world that isn't going to turn you upside down emotionally any minute. And finally, last but not least, it's time to talk about the constant satisfaction we get from these kind of games once we've invested our time. The awards of mayor's houses, or just the fact that you can sit back and watch your cities run without any external help. You've created something that's self-sufficient, poured enough of your time and efforts in that you've created a tiny ecosystem all of its own. And that's a really good thing. No, you probably won't get the same level of satisfaction and overall well-being from a city that you've just downloaded on Steam Workshop, but even here there's something about watching the various systems at work. Sitting back and watching these small self-contained worlds function without human intervention is like watching a model train set, you know, until you pretend you're Godzilla. So, to conclude, our favourite build-em-ups have myriad benefits. We have a sense of control, the autonomy to do exactly what we want, and the chance to slip into the brilliant state of flow that means we're actively having a psychologically immersive experience. Plus, whether we're playing Anno 1800 or the gloriously minimalist Islanders, we are always constructing something of aesthetic value, even if that just means lining up some fields rather than a complex transport system. Ah, perfect. So that's the psychology behind why we just can't stop playing city building games. Let us know your favourite old school or brand new city sims in the comments below, drop us a like if you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe to Logitech G for more videos just like this one. If you do already subscribe, which we really appreciate, please remember to hit that notification bell so that you know when our next video lands.